In the Garden of Eden, we see the first glimmer of humanity's struggle with willpower. Adam and Eve's choice to disobey God's command has been etched in our collective memory for millennia. Genesis 3. This pivotal moment set the stage for a recurring theme throughout Scripture, the tension between human desire and divine purpose. Throughout the Old Testament, we see prophets and kings grapple with this very issue. From King David's lamentations to the psalmist's declarations of trust, the people of God have consistently sought to align their wills with His. Psalms 37:4, 138. But it wasn't until Jesus' time on earth that we see the ultimate model for surrendering our will to the Father's. Jesus' famous prayer in John 12:47-50 serves as a poignant example of this mindset. He prays, "Not my will, but yours be done." This phrase has become an anthem for believers around the world, a reminder that true greatness comes not from our own ambitions, but from surrendering to God's greater plan. As we delve into the biblical wisdom surrounding this concept, we'll explore what it means to have our wills aligned with God's. We'll examine the lives of biblical figures who embodied this principle and learn how to apply it in our own lives. Biblical context and key passages. The phrase, "Not my will, but yours be done," is not a new concept in Scripture. In fact, it has its roots in the Old Testament, where prophets and kings grappled with aligning their wills with God's. Psalms 37:4, 138. The prophet Isaiah reminds us that even in times of uncertainty, we can find comfort in God's sovereignty. Isaiah 41:10-2. One of the most significant passages on this topic is Jesus' famous prayer in John 12:47-50. He prays, "Not my will, but yours be done," exemplifying the ultimate model for surrendering our will to the Father's. This mindset is not limited to Jesus alone. We see it in the lives of biblical figures like David, who trusted in God's goodness and provision. Psalms 23. Another key passage is Matthew 26:39, where Jesus prays in the Garden of Gethsemane, "Not my will, but yours be done." This moment foreshadows His ultimate act of surrender on the cross. By studying these passages, we can gain a deeper understanding of what it means to have our wills aligned with God's, and how to apply this principle in our own lives. The concept of "not my will, but yours be done" is more than just a phrase. It's a way of life. It requires us to surrender our desires, ambitions, and plans to the greater good of God's plan. By embracing this mindset, we can experience true freedom and peace in our lives. When we say, "Not my will, but yours be done," we're acknowledging God's sovereignty over all things. We're trusting that His plan is better than ours, even when it's difficult to see. We're surrendering our ego and pride, choosing instead to align with God's goodness and love. Meaning and key themes. The phrase, "Not my will, but yours be done," is a powerful expression of surrender, one that speaks to the heart of our human struggle. We're constantly torn between following our own desires and submitting to God's plan. This tension is not unique to the biblical era. We see it in the lives of prophets, kings, and ordinary people throughout Scripture. At its core, this phrase is an acknowledgement of God's sovereignty over all things. When we say, "Not my will, but yours be done," we're recognizing that our own desires, no matter how noble or well-intentioned, are subject to His greater plan. This doesn't mean we become passive or complacent. Rather, it means we trust in God's goodness and provision. Psalms 23. This mindset is not limited to grand monumental decisions. It's about the everyday choices we make, the priorities we set, and the values we uphold. By surrendering our wills to God's, we can experience true freedom and peace in our lives. The key theme here is humility, recognizing that our own understanding and wisdom are limited, and that God's plan is often beyond our comprehension. This is not about being defeatist or lacking ambition. Rather, it's about being humble enough to acknowledge our place within the larger narrative of God's story. When we align our wills with God's, we open ourselves up to a deeper understanding of His character and nature. We begin to see Him as a loving Father who desires good for us, even when things don't make sense in the moment. Romans 8:28. Practical application today. So how do we apply this principle in our own lives? One practical step is to start each day with a posture of surrender. Before making any decisions or setting goals, take time to pray and ask God what His will is for your life. This might look like journaling your thoughts and prayers, seeking guidance from Scripture, or simply taking a moment of quiet contemplation before making any moves. By doing so, you're acknowledging that your own will is subject to God's greater plan. Another way to apply this principle is to practice the art of letting go. When faced with difficult choices or uncertain circumstances, remind yourself that "not my will but yours be done" is not just a phrase, it's a way of life. Surrender your ego and pride, choosing instead to align with God's goodness and love. This might mean setting aside your own ambitions or desires in favor of what you believe God is calling you to do. It may require trusting in His timing and provision, even when things don't make sense in the moment. Isaiah 55:8-9. Practicing surrender daily by acknowledging God's sovereignty over your life. Seeking guidance from Scripture and prayer before making important decisions. Letting go of ego and pride, choosing instead to align with God's goodness and love. In conclusion, as we've explored the biblical wisdom surrounding "not my will but yours be done," it's clear that this phrase is more than just a prayer or a phrase. It's a way of life. By surrendering our wills to God's, we open ourselves up to a deeper understanding of His character and nature. When we acknowledge God's sovereignty over all things, we're trusting that His plan is better than ours, even when it's difficult to see. This mindset requires humility, recognizing that our own understanding and wisdom are limited, and that God's plan is often beyond our comprehension. By practicing surrender daily, seeking guidance from Scripture and prayer, and letting go of ego and pride, we can experience true freedom and peace in our lives. As Jesus' famous prayer reminds us, "Not my will, but yours be done." May this mindset become a hallmark of our walk with God.